off the ground.
Okay, let's go. Let's get it going.
Call to order. Please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right. Welcome to our June 8th Tiverton School Committee meeting. I'm going to ask for a motion to move executive session to follow the open meeting.
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Ask for a roll call vote. Mr. Dakotas?
Yes.
Mrs. Pavo?
Yes.
Mrs. Palish?
Yes.
Ms. Farnworth?
Yes.
And I vote yes. So we are moving our executive session to after the open meeting. I'm going to ask for a motion to approve the consent agenda.
So moved.
Second.
Any opposed? I'll take that as unanimous. So we are up to item 6.
Dr. Larkin,
Yeah, so
I'd like to make a motion to move up item 7 on the agenda.
yep.
Second.
Okay, any opposed? All right, so I'll take that as unanimous. We are now on item 7A, spotlight on
Excuse me?
success. Yep, Elaine?
Excuse me, Jerry.
Yep.
It's Elaine. I'm not sure. I may have missed something, but did we change the time of executive session and regular session? Like the agenda that I'm looking at
Yes, we
says
just
executive
moved it
session
back.
7, regular 8.
No,
No,
it's
that was
regular
the-
immediately following.
But was there an additional, because I've been away, there
Right.
was
So,
home this morning for a little while.
so the agenda
Yeah.
as posted
It has changed, yes.
was executive session at 7 p.m. We just moved that to the end of our open
Okay,
session.
okay, so I may have missed that while you were helping me with the phone. Okay,
Right.
all right.
And the
So we're moving to item 7 on the regular session.
agenda. Yep.
Okay, okay, thank you.
Okay, no problem. All right, so we are on item 7A, spotlight on success, student athlete of the year. I think we're gonna hold that until
Dr. Larkin, we're all set with that.
we're all set with that. All right.
Good.
So if you think I'm confused now, wait till later. So the item 7A, number 1, student athlete of the year, Mr. Ashley.
Yes, thank you. Good evening. And thank you to the committee for allowing us this special opportunity. You can see the slide that is coming up on the screen now. So it was really an amazing accomplishment to recognize senior Mariah Ramos as the top female athlete, high school athlete of the year in the entire state of Rhode Island. This really truly remarkable accomplishment is the combination. I want to just list some of the requirements or criteria. You not only have to have amazing athletic ability in multiple sports, but you have to excel in the classroom with high marks there. Again, I recognize the necessary requirement of competing in multiple sports, as Mariah did over all 4 years of her high school, and also demonstrating good citizenship, not only in the school, but in the community. And that really came out in Mariah's application, as I was informed that she was just an all-around, truly amazing, remarkable student. I talked to some of her coaches and teachers, and some of the comments they shared was that Mariah initially is kind of quiet, but there is a true competitive drive to her. And when she says she's going to do something, it gets done. She really does execute. And so the Rhode Island Interscholastic League of Athletics recognized Mariah officially on Wednesday, May 26th, with a ceremony and awards presentation. And then she was recognized on Channel 10 And she just really stands out as a really amazing accomplishment for herself and really for Tiverton High School. So Mariah, congratulations on behalf of all of the students and the faculty at Tiverton High School.
Thank you.
Well
And-
done, Mariah. Hearty congratulations from myself and all of the committee. Would you like to say a few words about your amazing accomplishments and what the future holds for you?
I'm sorry, my internet is really bad. I'm just coming from a game. Could you repeat that?
All right. Can you tell us a little bit about all your accomplishments and what your future holds?
So I am so honored to be receiving the award, and I definitely couldn't have done it without any of my teammates, my coaches, my friends, my family. And I'm just so overall honored to be able to represent the recipient for this award. And I plan on going to URI and to study pharmacy and hopefully continue and play club soccer there rather than the big walk on, but I still want to continue my academic and athletic career.
Sounds great. Sure, that'll be a rewarding career, and good luck at URI. There's a few other people I know who are going to be there. Maybe you can watch out for them. Sounds like you got your act together. So very good. Congratulations.
Thank you.
And Mariah, if I could just say, I've been roughing some of your games since you were in 6th grade. And I got to say one thing about you. You just always had so much fun, and you were so well mannered on the court. So I'm just proud that you represented yourself in Tiverton. I know your family's proud of you, and I'm proud of you. Even if you didn't like some of the calls I made, you always made me proud when I was out there. Good job.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Great. Next is item 7.2, the Presidential Award for Excellence in Mathematics and Science, the Teaching and Science Teaching State Finalists in Rhode Island. Mr. Ashley and Mr. Escher.
Yes, thank you. It's a real special night for Tiverton High School. So delighted to recognize the second wonderful accomplishment. We have Mr. Brian Callahan, a physics teacher at Tiverton High School, has been recognized as a finalist in science teaching for the Presidential Awards for Excellence in Mathematics and Science Teaching. And this really prestigious award has some real serious criteria. I just want to highlight. So first, Mr. Callahan was recognized for this really out of a love of teaching. And it just came out when his colleagues and his students just couldn't help but talk about his class when they weren't in his class and all of the fun projects that we do. And there was always well, I wonder what we're going to do next in Mr. Callahan's class. And so true credit to Mr. Callahan, he had to submit a detailed narrative and a philosophy of teaching to the board. He had to provide supplemental materials about his teaching career. He then had to video record a segment of his lesson and submit that for peer critical review. And in addition, letters of recommendation from myself and from colleagues. And so this was a true rigorous selection criteria, and it's a true testament to Mr. Callahan. We have Mr. Callahan joining us this evening. We have the Science Department Chair, Ms. Cusimano, and we have a representative from Rhode Island Department of Education, Mr. Esker, who is here also. And I'm going to turn it over to Mr. Esker to talk a little bit about kind of how the process continues at the national level, because that's where Mr. Callahan is headed next to in terms of being amongst the finalists amongst all 50 states. But it was a true delight. We had a surprise celebration last week with Mr. Escher, Ms. Cusimano, and Dr. Sanchioni, where we popped into one of his classes and brought some treats and awarded Mr. Callahan with a special plaque. And it was a real delight. And the students were just kind of bubbling with energy, enthusiasm. And one of the students said it best when they just blurted out unanticipated, "We love you, Mr. Callahan." And it was just a real wonderful celebration. So Mr. Esker, I'll turn it over to you to talk just a little bit about kind of the criteria and selection process moving forward.
Sure. Thank you, Mr. Ashley. And Good evening, everyone. Thank you, Chairperson Larkin and the entire school committee and Dr. Santioni for inviting me to share in this celebration for Tiverton. And I just have to take the opportunity because it's not often that I get a chance to visit your school committee meetings. And I just want to thank all of the Tiverton administrators, the teachers, the students, and the school committee for your tireless efforts to make teaching and learning possible during this year of the pandemic. So really my hat's off to you on behalf of the Rhode Island Department of Ed. I salute all of you today and the challenges that you've overcome. Well done. So today we're here to recognize one educator's selflessness and desire to increase scientific literacy for all of his students. We up at RIDE are just humbled by his dedication and contributions to teaching and learning, both at Tiverton High School and from his application demonstrating all that he does beyond the school and in the community of Rhode Island for education. All of his students certainly would be better prepared to be productive, contributing citizens of this world we share. And we thank you for inspiring future problem solvers in STEM. This year, the state selection committee has awarded Brian Callahan, as you know, as our state finalist. This is the highest recognition that a science teacher could receive for outstanding teaching in our state of Rhode Island. And the award reflects really the expertise and the dedication of what we look for in the nation's teaching force. And his demonstration of a positive impact of excellent teaching on all student achievement. Through this application process, he has shown the selection committee really that he has a mastery of content appropriate to the grade levels he teaches. He uses extremely effective instructional methods and strategies that are appropriate to support his students. He has a unique way of using assessments to evaluate and monitor and help improve student learning to move them forward. And he's also a reflective practitioner and a lifelong learner, constantly improving his craft. And his leadership, again, that I mentioned is something that we're really proud of inside and outside the classroom. So Brian's application at this point has been forwarded to Washington. He'll undergo a national review with the National Science Foundation, which is on behalf of the White House Office of Science and Technology Policy. And if he is chosen at this national level, he'll earn an all-expense-paid trip to Washington, D.C. to attend a series of recognition events and professional development opportunities. He'll also have an opportunity to visit the Office of Science, Technology, and Policy and be part of the larger think tank to have his voice heard to represent Rhode Island in the national conversations around education. He'll also receive a $10,000 award if selected and an opportunity really to network and build relationships with outstanding educators across our country, which is certainly an asset to Tiverton High School if he achieves this. And the most exciting piece of this is the opportunity to not only receive a signed letter from the President of the United States, but an opportunity to meet our current leader of the United States. So we wish you the best of luck, Brian, in this next step and review. And if everybody could just unmute, I think it's worthy of a Zoom applause. If you'll join me in congratulating him. All right, well done, sir.
Way to go.
Thank you.
Mr. Callahan, congratulations. I'd like to say a few words about your secret sauce.
I don't know if there's any secret sauce. But first, I apologize for the appearance here. I'm just getting done with soccer practice, so I apologize for that. But I think the secret sauce is the leadership of Tiverton and the community that supports us as teachers, and appreciate everything that Dr. Santioni has done for us and Mr. Ashley, and to build this team of within my discipline of science teachers has been so rewarding for me to be a part of. And without their support and encouragement, it certainly it would have been much tougher. That is for sure. This has been a challenging year, and it's been so fun to tackle all the hurdles with them as a team, and that's been a joy.
Well, congratulations. We're really lucky to have you, and best of wishes in the kind of competition for the King of all media, right? King of all science.
Yeah. For now, I'll say sure.
Next year, the Nobel Prize. All right.
I don't know. Yeah, but I appreciate it. Thank you so much for your time.
All right. Thank you.
Good job, Brian.
Congrats, Brian.
And thank you, Mr. Escher. I appreciate it.
Absolutely. Congratulations, Brian.
All right, thanks so much.
All right.
All right, thanks for having me, folks.
Awesome.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for coming tonight. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
You're very welcome. Take care.
All right. So next is item 7.3. And this is a citation for 3 Eagle Scouts, 2 of whom are residents of Tiverton and 1 who's a resident of Little Compton. And the reason I bring them all 3 forward, since we're not Little Compton, is that there's a Boy Scout, there are 2 Boy Scout troops in Tiverton. One is sort of in the north and one is in the south. And the south one's really a nice joint community effort by people of Tiverton and of Little Compton. So I'm going to ask for a motion to approve the resolution I sent you guys this afternoon, if you've had a chance to look it over, and then I will read it, if that's okay.
I'll make a motion to approve the resolution as presented.
Second.
Okay, so I will read the resolution. So whereas Gunnar Cook Dumas of Tiverton, who is also the son of Carl and sorry, just totally blanked on his mom's name, but also the grandson of Donna Cook of our Tiverton Town Council, Maxwell Farley of Tiverton, son of Jerome Larkin and Sarah Farley, and Zan Allen of Little Compton, son of Polly Allen and Jeremy Allen. Polly, we all know from the Tiverton Prevention Coalition, as well as the Little Compton School Committee, have completed the requirements to achieve the rank of Eagle Scout, and that they will be honored for this accomplishment at a special court of honor on June 15th, 2021, and that they have thereby exhibited the most laudable characteristics of trustworthiness, loyalty, helpfulness, friendliness, courtesy, kindness, obedience, cheerfulness, thriftiness, bravery, cleanliness, some questions about that one, and reverence, and that such accomplishments on the part of the young people of Tiverton and Little Compton is worthy of recognition and praise. Now be it known that the School Committee of Tiverton offers its most hearty congratulations and awards this citation in recognition of their achievement. Tiverton School Committee, June 8th, 2021. So I will ask for a roll call vote, and any comments that anyone would like to make as they vote, feel free to do so. Barnworth.
Congratulations to all 3 fine young men coming from 3 great families, and I wish them all the very best as they move forward, and my vote is a yes.
Mr. Dakotas.
Yeah, sort of the same sentiment there. Congrats to all for the work put in, and nice to be acknowledged for doing good things. So to the 3 young men and their families, congratulations, and I also say yes.
Okay, Mrs. Palish.
Yes, and congratulations to the boys, and also thanks to the troop leaders. You know, many times you can see those troops come and go, and I know those 2 have sort of been mainstays in Tiverton, so congratulations to those troop leaders as well.
Okay, and Mrs. Pavo.
Congratulations, boys.
Okay, and your vote is in the affirmative, I assume?
Yes.
All right, and I will vote yes. And I'm sorry, it was Aaron Cook Dumas. I'm sorry, Ms. Cook Dumas, for forgetting your first name momentarily. So again, congratulations to all 3 eaglets. And that is that. All right. So we are on item 7B, technology. Mr. Carnavale.
Yes, thank you, Dr. Larkin. So I believe the first agenda item is a request for the technology committee to have someone from the school committee be able to join us for our final meeting to go over a technology plan. RIDE requires that the district submits a 3-year technology plan to show what the district would like to do in the future. It's not something that we have to write in stone where we have to do all of that process, but it is something that RIDE does require us to submit to them. And I would like to ask to have someone join in our meeting to review the plan that our committee has drawn up over the past few months. And then I would like to have that person review it with us, give it their blessing so that we can put it in front of the committee for a final vote.
So, Dave, if I understand, you're asking for a member of the school committee to join your committee?
Yes, please.
Okay. Is there?
I just have a question about process.
Yes, please.
Dr. Sanquioni, if it's a technology committee and it's a plan that has to be submitted, won't this be something that you'll ultimately approve as well?
That is correct. Once the committee does the initial draft, and then I approve it and it gets sent on to RIDE.
Okay.
Does the, if you don't mind, does the, is the school committee going to be asked to approve this plan?
Yes,
Yeah.
I'd like to put it in front of the school committee for approval.
Okay, I'm just a little concerned that it's almost an unnecessary step to have one person there. I'm not understanding the value of that if you're going to be putting it in front of us regardless.
Sure. In the past, prior to before I took over as technology director, there was always one member of the school committee that would have been on that board to review and go over everything before it went up.
Okay.
We don't currently have a subcommittee. And I'm not entirely sure it would be appropriate, to be honest with you. I'd like to get others' opinion as well.
So this is a committee of the superintendent or of the district. Is that right, Peter or Dave?
That is correct, right? And it's a committee that's been formed, has teachers on it, and obviously members of the tech department. And correct me if I'm wrong, Mr. Cannavale, but isn't it a requirement that there's a school committee member to be part of it? That's why you're asking?
Yes.
And then
Oh.
the school committee member would join, the committee would finalize the plan, and then it would come back to you.
So I guess that's part of
When do
that.
you, sorry.
That's just an odd requirement. And I just because school committee members as individuals cannot speak on behalf of the board. That's why that's such an odd requirement.
Well,
but it's not unlike when we had a school committee member on the building committee.
I was just going to bring that up.
Yeah.
So, I think one of the things, and maybe this is part of the reason that they require this, is that while you're right, we only act as a board or a body, we don't act individually. But at the same time, I think the experience of working on the building committee was that I could ask questions that I could anticipate the committee might ask, and therefore the answers would be more readily available rather than sort of a, ongoing back and forth. Conversely, having been to the meetings, maybe it was helpful to represent the viewpoint of the board, of the building committee back to the school committee, so that I think there's value there.
Yeah. Yeah, and I was going to say, Dave, I'm happy to help, but can you what kind of commitment are you looking for? Just kind of for all of us.
So the plan has already been drafted and written up, and we've gone through a few different iterations of it. So once I have a member, I'll forward over the copy of the plan immediately, and then we're going to do a final review. We're hoping sometime next week.
Oh, okay. Well, if no one has any objections, I'm happy to help.
Okay. Thoughts, questions, others, Mike?
And if someone else would like to do it instead, I'm happy to step aside.
Okay. Mike, I'll give you the floor. Any questions or thoughts?
No, I appreciate Deb offering that. I think that's great. Thank you, Deb.
Okay. Elaine, you with us still? Elaine? Mrs. Bava? I think you're still there. All right. Diane, anything else?
No, I'm happy if someone else wants to take it. As you know, I'm on vacation this week, and I'm sure I'll be buried with work the next couple of weeks. So I would certainly not want to volunteer.
Any questions from any of our administrators? And any questions from the public?
Just a few comments about our previous items. Jennifer Joseph says, congratulations, Mariah, and Kenyon Thayer says, way to go, Scouts. And that is it, Dr. Larkin.
All right, thank you. Deb, by acclamation, it is you. Thank you for doing that.
Thank you, Mrs. Palish. I'll send you all the information this evening.
All right. And then
And thank you.
we're up to item 7B, number 2, coding as a language grant.
Yes, so at least we get to speak about something a little bit on a happier note. So back in April, we had received a message from RIDE in regards to a grant opportunity. It's called the CAL grant, which is coding as a language. And part of this grant would be for elementary schools, grades K, 1 and 2, and especially for our Title I school. So I met with Principal Wardell over at Picasset, and we decided to come up with some information and apply for the grant. And we were awarded it, which is fantastic. So what the grant does is this grant actually allows us to purchase 3 carts of 25 iPads each. Those carts are shared between grades K, 1 and 2. So each grade level gets their own cart. And each teacher at that grade level gets professional development in being able to teach the students a program called Scratch Junior, which allows them to do coding. It's not something that overtakes the curriculum, but it is trying to get the students into the computer science and the 21st century learning. And we were awarded that grant. And one of our teachers was also awarded the ability to be an educational leader, and that's through Tufts University. So that was Amanda Rose at Picasset, and she will be going to Tufts University to get trained to be a trainer for the Coding as a Language grant. The one thing with the grant is that there's 2 separate cohorts. There's cohort 1 and 2. The difference between the 2 cohorts, cohort 1 would start immediately in September. Cohort 2 would be starting next September. So we are just waiting to hear back if we're a group 1 or group 2, but we did get a grant and it's been really nice.
Wow, congratulations. That's great. Thank you for all that work and for sort of leading these efforts. And thank you, Mrs. Wardell, as well. Any other comments or questions from the committee?
Just to thank Mr. Carnevale, and I'm sure the educators that he worked with and will be continuing to work with on this. It's a great win for Picasset. So thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Farmer.
Right, 2 barks up. Great. And any questions for our administrators or from the public?
Not
Okay.
at this time, Dr. Larkin.
All right, great. So I'm going to anticipate some questions on the next item, 7C, Tiverton Middle School trimesters. Mrs. Craven.
Before we go back, I'm sorry, Dr. Larkin, do we need to vote on that grant? Typically, we do vote to accept grants.
Yeah, all right. Well, just to make it legal, yeah, let's do that. So I'll ask for a motion to approve the grant. Accept the
So
grant.
moved. So moved.
Second.
Any opposed? Take that as unanimous. Okay.
Thank you.
Item 7C, Tiverton Middle School trimesters. Ms. Craven.
Thank you, Dr. Larkin. So Tiverton Middle School went through some scheduling changes over the past year due to reductions that I had to make as a result of the budget. So when we looked at options, we found that moving to trimesters was an excellent option for us. Why move to trimesters? There's several reasons. One would be that the teachers have more time to progress monitor the kids, gather data on the students before they perform summative assessments, develop personal relationships with the kids over a longer period of time. The marking periods would be 3 times a year. So we would move from 45-day quarters to 60-day trimesters. The teaching staff is in favor of this move, and I think it's a good move for the middle school. There are other middle schools in Rhode Island who are on trimesters. It's not uncommon at all. So I'll take any questions you have about trimesters at this time.
Okay, I'm going to open up the floor to questions. Mr. Dakotas?
No, I mean, if the staff and the teachers are on board, that's great. I mean, I think it's a pretty smart idea. I like the idea of having more time with kids, building longer relationships, especially for ones that kids only have for a quarter or half of a year. Give them a little more time. So I think it's great.
Ms. Farnworth?
Actually, to dovetail off of Mr. Dakotas's statement just there, how are you going to work those classes that are currently half-year classes?
Yeah, that's exactly. I already went through changes with our schedule. So there won't be any more half-year classes. We'll be on trimester schedules where we'll have marking periods of December, March, and June. So the schedule's been built. I had to obviously, absorb some cuts, and I'm not reducing any programming at all. So I want to make it very clear that with this new schedule, with trimester marking periods, I'm still allowing us to offer the same programming to all of the middle school students that we have in the past. It just is moving to longer trimester periods, which would be great for the students and parents and the teachers as well.
Okay.
Ms. Palish?
So I'm just, how is the calendar going to work with just the other schools? I know a lot of times we would work PD around the end of a quarter or that type of thing. Or do you not really do that much with the other schools who will still be on the quarters?
It really doesn't change anything, Deb. That's a great question, but it doesn't impact conferences. It doesn't impact what the other schools are doing at all. It really doesn't, even professional development that's already planned, it doesn't change anything.
I'm all set, Jerry.
Dr. Larkin? Mrs. Craven, could I just ask one more clarifying question?
Sure.
You just mentioned that it won't change conferences. So parent-teacher conferences are typically held right around Thanksgiving for first quarter. Will you have also completed first trimester by then?
No, the first marking period, it would be December, March, and June. So it would be right before that.
But you'll still meet with the parents at the normal times.
At the normal times, and which isn't a bad thing. I think it's actually beneficial, because remember, if we start school in September and we start with a quarter, we have 45 days in a quarter. The first 2 weeks of school are getting to know your students, and so I find that teachers are rushing to put grades in a grade book, and that's not what we should be assessing. Just to put grades in a grade book so we have something to talk about at conferences. I think it's important that you get to better know your students, and you administer formative and summative assessments, so you're monitoring learning, not just putting grades in a grade book.
You as a teacher, you'll have a handle on pretty much where the student is, regardless of the close of the term. I agree. Okay. I just wanted to clarify that. Thank you.
You're welcome.
And Sue, when I was doing a little bit of reading, that seems to be common at this level.
It is. It's very common at middle school levels. There's many middle schools in Rhode Island that are on trimester schedules, so it is common.
Very good. Is Dr. Larkin still with us? Mrs. Pava, oh, you are.
With you, and I was muted. That's why you couldn't hear me. It's funny how
I apologize. I'm working just with my little phone. I'm usually on a larger computer, so I can't see everyone.
Well, I'm working with a dog, a couple kids.
I left all of them home.
and Mrs. Pavo here. So Elaine, no questions, you said? Elaine? Okay. Any questions from the public, Mrs. Delcourt?
Not at this time, Dr. Larkin.
And any questions from our other administrators? Manny, you gonna do that at Ranger? No. All right.
Let's hold that for a bit.
Yeah, yeah, it's just not as common in elementary or high school. It's definitely, when I was looking at definitely a middle school, very common.
Yeah, you're correct.
Yeah. Okay. Item 7D, the summer program offerings. All principals.
If I'll take the lead on that, Dr. Larkin, and just remind the committee that through the ESSER 2 and ESSER 3 grant that the school system will be leaving, one of the stipulations is 20% of those funds needs to be used for learning extensions, and specifically summer programming and tutoring programs during the school year. So with that in mind, and knowing that that is a requirement of receiving the funds, all three principals, or excuse me, all five principals, all three levels work together to put together some great programming this summer for our students. And I'd like them to review that with you now. And also know that when the fall rolls around, we'll be back in touch with, or put it back on the agenda as an item to show you the fall programming, the extension of the school day, and the tutoring programs. But just right now for the summer, and if I'm looking in the packet, it looks like the high school data was placed in there first. So let's start with you, Mr. Ashley.
Yes, thank you. So we're really excited through the funds to be expanding our summer programming, and we have multiple programs, beginning with our incoming seniors. So this will be class of 2022. We are looking at a 4-day program focused on college readiness. So this will be later in August, but open to all incoming seniors to really get on top and be proactive about the college application process, so that we still chunk this whole process out throughout the seniors fall, but really get ahead of the resume building, the writing of the essay, looking at the Common App, making sure they're beginning to list all their activities, so that by the time they start school on the first day in September, they really have a firm grasp of, depending on what schools they want to, almost having that college application just about ready. And so we're really excited, and a bunch of our incoming seniors have already signed up for this. The next offering we are planning is what we're calling critical skills for school success. So this is going to be open to any student. And really, this is a targeted approach around building foundational skills in communication, collaboration, creativity, and also a recognition of the transition from the pandemic, where many of our students have not been in school for most of the year, or were only in recently, and getting them kind of reacclimated to the school environment and giving them those boosts in those core skills. And this will be a credit-bearing course, so it'll start the second week of July, go through July and into the first week of August. The third program we're looking at is similar in duration to the 12th grade college readiness. We're calling it a 9th grade acceleration academy. And so this will also be later in August, but for all current 8th graders incoming into 9th grade. And again, focusing on those core skills of communication, collaboration, critical thinking, and problem solving, and really getting our new students to the high school acclimated to what are the expectations academically for the high school level, but then also just getting them familiar with the building, learning, going through the basics of the handbook, the procedures of the high school, and really, again, making it so that we have found from previous research and from teacher input that before this program, would take our new freshmen sometimes 1 to 2 weeks just to kind of get used to the expectations of the high school. The goal of this particular program is to, again, be proactive, take all that work before the first day of school, so that when that first day comes, our 9th graders are ready to begin learning. And then the final program is what we call a credit recovery program. We were successful at running this last summer, and this is for the students who unfortunately don't pass a course but are just missing it by a little bit. We're able to enroll them in one of the 4 content areas, so science, math, English, and social studies. They work with our teachers fill in the gaps in the curriculum, and then they're able to earn credit for those courses that they wouldn't have earned the credit for because they didn't quite pass earlier in the year. And so it's at the high school full complement. We're looking at 9 to 12, and really excited about giving them the academic and really social emotional boost over the summer so that they're ready for learning come the first day of September.
Okay, I'm gonna stop here and open the floor to questions. Ms. Pava, she's in now on her iPad. Elaine, you're there, muted? You're muted. All right, let's move to Mrs. Palish.
Nothing, thank you.
Mr. Dakotas.
I'm good, thank you.
Ms. Farnworth.
I only have one question. Mr. Ashley, of the summer credit recovery, one of your bullets indicates maintain communication between online course instructor, school, and parent guardian. Is this in person or online?
So it is in person, but we do provide, that bullet is in there in case, depending on the particular subject, there was a chance that if the student had some online work from earlier, that we would continue that into the summer. But it is an in-person, these are all in-person programs for the summer.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, I have one question. Are there any sort of space limits if, the entire class wants to, join the college application program? Or is it sort of you can have as many people as you want?
Yeah, you're talking about the 12th grade, the incoming 12th grade program in particular?
Yeah, well, yeah.
Yeah.
I guess hopefully there's not too many that need credit recovery, but
Right. Yeah, so we are planning for some flexibility around this. We don't want to deny any senior. And so we have the curriculum ready to be a little bit more expansive in terms of if it's larger groups and more targeted if it's smaller groups. But we're also, we have some outside applicants ready so that if we do get really expanded interest, to bring in some more teachers for it, actually, to keep the groups smaller size.
Okay, great, thank you. And I don't know, Elaine, if you had any questions, if you're back. All right, any questions from the public, Mrs. Delcourt?
Not at this time, Dr. Larkin.
And any questions from any of our administrators? Okay, back to you, Peter.
Okay, let's just go to the middle school. Ms. Craven.
Thank you. So Tiverton Middle School will be offering 2 acceleration academies this summer. One will be for incoming 5th graders. I worked with the elementary school principals and got some recommendations from them and looked at some STAR scores to identify students who we feel would be in need of a ramp up program. And so invitations went out to those students. They'll have the opportunity to have an hour and a half of math and an hour and a half of ELA 3 days a week for a 5-week period at the middle school. Some students in that program did also receive an invitation where they'll work on some social emotional issues. And I have contacted Gloria Christ in the core organization, and we're going to work with them to integrate some arts into that as well. The second program is the students in grade 8 who are transitioning to grade 9, who haven't had much success this year in ELA and mathematics, and will need some extra tutoring this summer in order to be successful at the next level. And those students were self-selected as well through teacher recommendation, report cards, and also data collections from our STAR scores. Same 3 days a week, an hour and a half in duration, ELA and mathematics over the course of 5 weeks.
Great. I'm going to open the floor to questions. Mrs. Farnworth?
I have no questions. Thank you, Mrs. Craven. It sounds like you have a lot of balls in the air with this, though.
We do. But it's all in motion. So invitations have gone out, and we are, parents are very grateful when you contact families to let them know that, they're going to expect a letter in the mail. They are very grateful that we're doing this for the students of Tiverton. So it's all been positive, and I hope it will be extremely successful. We are running 2 tutoring programs now that have been very successful. So I'm very optimistic.
Well, thank you for saying that, because I've heard of so many parents just almost helplessly watching their children struggle through this past year and a half. So it's great to see these opportunities, and I really do hope that the parents, take full advantage of it and get the kids back on track. That's excellent. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Ms. Pavo? Okay. Ms. Palish?
Just really kind of tagging on to what Diane said. I'm especially excited, Sue, to see the social emotional component of this. I know even many adults have really, struggled the last 16 months. So I can't imagine what it's been like for our children. So I'm, especially excited to see you and your team recognize that that's a big component that we need to work on to catch them up to just emotionally where they need to be to start off a new year. So I thank you and your team and core for really jumping into that.
Yeah, I mean, we definitely have some experience after running the programs that we ran this spring, and we recognized in my conversations with students so many times they spoke about other factors that were impacting their learning. So I knew it was an essential component that we needed to include in summer. So thank you for recognizing that.
Okay, and Mr. Dakotas?
No, I don't have any questions. Thank you.
Okay, so again, thanks very much, Sue. Sounds like some great work is going to get done. Any questions from the public, Ms. Delcourt?
Not at this time, Dr. Larkin.
And from any of our other administrators? Okay, Peter, you're up.
All right, we're going to move to the elementary level, and according to my data, I got Fort Barton starting. So, Ms. Donnelly Roach.
Thank you. As you know, we have 2 district-wide activities going on, and then school-specific activities. In terms of the district-wide, we are for the 3rd year in a row having the Summer Reading Academy, which is for rising 4th graders with the documented need for acceleration in literacy. And that includes, of course, students working together across the schools, and it's going to be offered at Ranger. Thank you, Mr. Cabral. 3 days a week for 4 weeks. They'll be using supplemental materials and texts, and it'll be driven by student interest. So we're excited about that. This year, we also have an acceleration piece for rising 3rd and 4th graders with a documented need for acceleration in the math realm. And so there'll be some face-to-face and primarily virtual coaching and small group support for those students who will be selected, are being selected with data-driven decision-making by the teachers. That is in partnership with RIDE using software, and that software is aligned to our math programming. So it's sort of like playlists for the upcoming school year. So they'll be jump-started and start the year off with some familiarity and skills in their new curriculum to come. At Fort Barton, we're running a Kindergarten Explorers program, just 2 half days, getting to know our students and hoping to build really well-balanced heterogeneous classrooms as a result. The kids will be able to come for the morning and have hands-on and play-based learning opportunities while our teachers get to know them, their strengths, their support needs, and their learning qualities. And then we're also offering 2 short 2-day sessions for our jump start to first grade and jump start to second grade as well. And really excited to sort of just reset and support students so they too are familiar with what's to come and start the year off ready to go, if not ahead of where they would have been without it.
Great, thank you. I'm gonna open up the floor to questions. Ms. Farnworth?
I have no specific questions. Thank you, Amy, for putting that out there.
Okay, great. Mr. Dakotas?
Thank you, Amy.
Ms. Palish?
Nothing specific, but I'm happy to see, this summer reading academy and the accelerated math skills that were started, years ago, still going on. Obviously, they're working well.
Okay, and Ms. Pavo? Okay. Yeah, I guess I'll just echo all the, the comments of others. Thank you guys for your leadership in sort of putting these, we all recognize that, students have all kinds of different abilities and come from a lot of different places. And I think the more we can keep education continuous over the course of the summer and, sort of prevent or hopefully enhance what has gone on during the year and get them ready for the fall is really great and appreciated. So thank you guys all for this work that you're doing. Any questions from the public, Ms. Delcourt?
Not at this time, Dr. Larkin.
Okay, thank you. Peter, back to you.
Okay, let's move to Ranger, then we'll go right to Picasset. You'll see some similarity with the elementary programs.
Hello. So the summer fun at Ranger this year is going to be similar to what we're doing at all three elementary schools. One of the programs we're calling Swimming in a Sea of Friends, where we want to continue our counseling program with our guidance counselor and our school psychologist. We're working with students they've been working with all year, as well as picking up some new students based on the survey that the SEL survey that the students took this year. So that's going to run. We also have the Ranger Explorers for incoming kindergarten. We're going to do similar activities at Fort Barton and Picasset. We're going to do that for incoming skills, and we'll also have the kindergarten orientation, which we've always had. And we've got our first grade rockets where we're going to be establishing some rules and guidelines as far as first grade and looking at rituals and routines. And we also have our second grade sailing into second grade, where the second grade teachers we'll be looking at some literacy skills and math skills as kids come out of first grade going into second grade.
Okay.
Those are the programs we're going to be offering this year during the summer at Ranger.
Very great. Thank you, Manny. I'll open the floor to questions. Ms. Palish?
I can't tell, are these mainly in school or are some virtual?
Well, all the programs at Ranger are in person.
In person? Okay. I know many, you could bring Swimming in a Sea of Friends to my workplace.
Yeah, I know.
Thank you.
The invitations to these programs will be going out this week, but also any parent that wants to have their child participate in any one of these programs, we're welcoming everyone to participate.
All right. Mrs. Pavo? Mrs. Farnworth?
So, Mr. Cabral, the only question I have, it's really going back to the last thing you mentioned. How will parents, for those that are not already, for those students that haven't necessarily been targeted as in need of additional support, how will parents know about these programs, and how would they get their child involved?
Right. So the parents, the kids are going to be invited. Those students will be invited individually, and parents will get emails. The rest of the population will get a general email through school messenger. Anyone that wants their child to participate in any one of the programs, they just need to contact me.
Okay,
So
great. Thank you.
It'll be going through school messenger.
Okay.
That's a good point. Ms. Delcourt, what kind of communications like do you have planned to sort of push out the information as you will?
Well, our audience in general is on our social media accounts, namely Facebook, etc. So you'll see, starting with the high school, they already have several posted, which are just graphic articulations of what that course covers, and then it'll follow suit with the other grades as well.
Yeah, I do want to commend Ms. Delcourt for that. We saw some pretty significant enrollment just shortly after those posts went out.
Communication is key. Thank you.
Not so much. Mr. Dakotas?
No, thank you, Mr. Corral.
Okay. And so I think, Suzette, you're best for last.
So at the CASET, we've had traditional summer programming because we're a Title I school. So we've been doing this for a while. The great thing about that is we've been able to look at our data. And one of the big barriers that parents have cited as to why their children couldn't participate in the summer was transportation. So the CASET, we're offering a combination of virtual and in-person summer programming. The traditional Title I program that we usually run, it's our Summer SOAR Academy. It will focus on both reading and math activities to accelerate their learning. Instead of specifically targeting students who are Title I, we're going to open it up to all of our students in our school. It will be virtual 3 times a week for 3 weeks. And basically, it's going to start with a virtual morning meeting. And then the students will be able to go on Lexia and Freckle Math and Freckle ELA, which will all be individualized for their specific learning needs. As they're doing that, the virtual teacher will use Relay, which is a program that they could go on and they could see the children's screen and they can offer them individual one-on-one help. Then at 10:15, we're going to have a closing meeting from 10:15 to 10:30, and students for our program will be earning points. And as they earn points at the end of the week, they can redeem those points for different prizes that we're going to have available from different Tiverton businesses, like an ice cream certificate and different things like that. So we're working on that. And then again, like the other 2 schools, we're doing Kindergarten Explorers. Our Kindergarten Explorers will be, like Mr. Cabral said, we will also be doing our kindergarten orientation. Kindergarten orientations really focus on parents and get information to them. So this Kindergarten Explorers is now focusing on kids, having them do story time, have them do centers, craft time. That way they can get more of an experience of what kindergarten actually is. And the last program we have is flying up to 1st grade. We have found at our school that it's really a very big transition from kindergarten to 1st grade. And we want to really help families with that. So the Flying Up to 1st Grade is a virtual program. It's going to be run by our 2 1st grade teachers. And again, like Mr. Cabral said, it's all the routines and rituals of 1st grade with a lot of fun games and activities. And it's really the first time that they'll get to meet their classmates. So we're hoping that that'll help ease the transition for all students into 1st grade.
Great. Thank you so much, Ms. Wardell. I'm going to open up the floor to questions. Elaine?
No questions at this time. Thank you.
Ms. Farnworth?
No questions, but thank you to Suzette and your team for, meeting the parents' needs. If transportation is the challenge, then certainly online learning is a great way. My only concern is that all of the students continue to have access to the internet for this period. I don't know if any of them are currently receiving access through the school system or what the situation may be, but I think it's just something to make sure that we remember, is that some families may not have direct access to the internet, and going the one step further may be something you think of.
Great, thank you.
Mr. Dakotas?
Oh, thank you very much.
And Ms. Palish.
No, thank you, but thank you to all of you that you do understand that while we're one district, I love that each of you sort of mold it to your school community, and I think that's really important, and it speaks to how well each of you know your own communities. And I appreciate that we are one district, but that each of you really understand how to serve your school community.
Yeah, I echo that, but also at the same time, it's evident that you collaborate closely. I mean, especially the three elementary principals, and I think that's important as well, so that people also understand that the experience at Ranger shouldn't be that much different from the experience at Pocasset or at Fort Barton, and that we're all part of one town that decided to maintain these three sort of community schools, but we're all somehow related, I guess, since we live in Rhode Island. So all right, any questions from the public, Ms. Delcourt, for any of our principals or any of the things we've talked about in this section?
Not at this time, Dr. Larkin.
Okay, great. Well, again, thank you for all your hard work. So I have to track down my agenda again. All right, so we are up to item 7E, designation of representative to the Town Council Casino Gaming Revenue Advisory Committee. I'm going to turn the gavel over to Mrs. Farnworth for a minute, if I can. Diane, you're there?
I am.
So I don't know if maybe you can, you may have studied this more than any of the rest of us, so maybe you could gloss a little bit about what the statute says and what this commission is supposed to do.
Oh, okay, thank you. Well, I will first say that from what I understand, the intention of this Town Council Casino Gaming Revenue Advisory Committee is to gather input from members of the community, as well as a representative of the school committee, to give input to the town council for them to formulate a gaming revenue ordinance. Did I? I apologize. I wasn't prepared to be leading this discussion.
Okay.
So Jerry, who was on our building committee? Was that you?
Yeah. And Sally served as an alternate.
So would it make sense, because you, and if you're busy, say no, but since you understand our plan, our sort of our 5-year plan, certainly better than I do.
Yeah, I'm happy to do it, interested in doing it. If there's others that want to put their name forward, we could either elect or just sort of do it by sort of who's ever willing to do it. So yeah, so I'm happy to do it. Again, that whole process was not just the building committee, but it was the whole 5-year plan. It started out with the facility study, and we're sort of actually going through that process again now to update the 5-year plan. And the commission itself, or I think it's commission, right? The Casino Revenue Commission is really only advisory to the town council, who has sort of custody of the money, other than the school committee budget or the school district's budget. And so they can, do with it as they feel is most appropriate for the town. But it is good that they're asking for our, sort of representation input, if we're going to try and designate that money for capital. Mike Burke is going to be the representative from the town council, and then they're looking for members of the people from the community who would be willing or interested in doing this. And so if someone is interested, please contact the town clerk or Mr. Burke, and I'm sure they can go through the process of sort of getting on that body. So we'll see how things go. I think the casino revenues are going to be more significant than we may have anticipated a year ago. And, you know, hopefully we'll get some of the capital projects that we need done in the town. So, all right. So
Dr. Larkin,
yep.
you know, and I do apologize for not really being terribly prepared to actually lead this discussion, but I do absolutely have something to say about it. You know, it's no secret that I was opposed to the council enacting the casino revenue ordinance in the first place. I attended one of their meetings, and as a taxpayer, you know, I feel that I'm also opposed to the establishment of this committee. I feel that the town council would, you know, now that they have crafted and enacted the ordinance, I think they should take it one step further and craft or draft an ordinance that would speak to the spending of the casino ordinance, and then put it to the public in general, not just a committee, but all of the public, solicit input via public hearings and any other methods that they, you know, feel that they can get input from the taxpayers on how to actually craft an ordinance that works for everyone. You know, to that end, I still oppose the ordinance. I oppose the committee. With that said, if you, I have every confidence that if you serve on this committee, that you will represent us well. And I will be happy to make a motion to appoint you to be the representative from the school committee to the Casino Gaming Revenue Advisory Committee.
I'll second.
Okay. Dan, I'll let you call the vote. If there's any, unless there's any other discussion.
Is there any other discussion? Okay, Mrs. Pavo?
No, yes.
Okay, Mr. Dakotas?
I'm going to abstain from that.
Mrs. Palash?
Yes.
And Dr. Larkin?
Yes.
And I'm a yes. That's 4 yeses and 1 abstention.
Okay. And thank you for your confidence. And next is item 7F, school committee FTR resolutions. Deb.
Yeah, I really just put this on as a placeholder because we do have the ability to put a resolution on, and I actually thought about a couple of them that I might want to, you know, that I wanted to consider putting on. I spoke to someone about one of them, non-school committee member, and sort of decided against it. The same with the second. So it really was just a placeholder in case anyone wanted them on, and there wasn't anything I decided to go forward with.
Okay. So if we have other, if anybody has any other, well, I'll open the floor to comments or discussion. Mike?
No.
Elaine?
Nothing.
Diane?
I guess the only question I have is what are the deadlines to submit a resolution for the school committee?
Thursday.
Thursday. So this would be our last opportunity.
Thursday is the day after tomorrow?
Yep.
Okay, well, that's that. So if we're not gonna do anything tonight.
Yeah, that's why I put it on. It really
Got
was
it.
just-
Okay. All right.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't have any strong feelings or sort of burning issues. Yeah. Okay.
But I kind of, you know, I'll thank you, Deb, for putting it on there, because I think it's something perhaps that we should always have as a placeholder on our agenda to consider resolutions each year. Because I don't think it's something we've had any discussion about since I've been on.
Yeah.
So thank you for putting it there.
Yeah. Yeah, and yeah, okay. Good. Keeping my thoughts to myself, I guess. All right. That is the end of new business, so we can return to item 6, old business, FY22 budget update, Dr. Sanquioni.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and no PowerPoint tonight. I think we've gone through our numbers and our dilemma with the school committee, but just want to update the committee on some important dates. So the first is the deadline for a petitioner's budget is June 19th. And as you know, right now, we believe that the budget committee has recommended a budget of 32.5 million, and that leaves us $1.4 million short of a level service budget. And because of a June 1st deadline with our contract with NEA or state regulations, we've laid off a number of people to make sure that if that budget passed, we in fact could come in with a balanced budget, and that was over 13 people. But we also prepared the district in case there was a petitioner's budget that may have allocated $1 to the school department, which would then be a $2.5 million deficit, which would be incredibly hard to overcome. So we're tracking that date real carefully, as I'm sure the school committee is. And if there is a petitioner's budget on there that would raise the 32.5, that certainly would be great. But if the 32.5 is the baseline, I want to inform the committee that we would be able to make some callbacks then right away on June 20th, that Monday. If there is a budget on there that is allowing us just $1, then we're going to have to stay in this holding pattern until the vote on July 17th. I do want to inform the committee that I've learned 2 things: that absentee ballots can be obtained on the town website, and we're certainly going to publish that link, and that in-person voting can also take place on July 15th and 16th in person at the town hall, and then certainly on the 17th at Tiverton High School. So just want to update the committee on where we are. We're all in a hold, as you've heard some of the principals talk about schedules and things like that. You know, it just stagnates so much of the work we normally would have done at this point, not knowing exactly what our staffing will be for next year.
Okay, I'll open up the floor to discussions. Mrs. Pavo?
I have nothing. Thank you.
Mr. Dakotas?
No, thank you.
Mrs. Farnworth?
Dr. Secchione, are you going to ask, and I don't know, is Ms. Roderick with us tonight?
She is.
Yes.
Is she intending to lead any kind of discussion on state aid?
Yep.
I am.
Okay.
After this
thank you.
topic, yep.
Okay, thank you. I just want to make sure I didn't miss that opportunity.
Okay. And Mrs. Palish?
No.
Okay.
I have lots to say, but I'll wait.
Okay. I think what I would encourage people to do is to continue to look at the numbers, and also in particular to attend the financial town hearing, which I believe is July 1st. Do I have that date right? You know, I think, yeah, depending on whether or not there's a petitioner's budget of any sort, stay tuned and we'll sort of see how this is all playing out. Any questions or comments from the public, Mrs. Delcourt?
Not at this time, Dr. Larkin.
And from any of our administrators? Okay. Peter, back to you.
Okay, and the second part tonight is Ms. Farnworth indicated, Amy Roddick's just going to give a little update on the town contribution to education, how that's calculated, and what the position it places Tiverton in. So, Amy.
Great, thank you so much. So I am going to share my screen. This is a document that that was presented a while back. Can everyone see that?
Yep.
Okay. So at the school committee's request some time back, I was asked to detail the state funding formula and how they arrive at the figure each year
that the state will provide to Tiverton School Department, and with the balance of that being responsible, the town being responsible for any balance over and above what the state gives us. My understanding is that there was some concern or misunderstanding about the factors that went into the state aid calculation, in that some folks, I guess, are under the impression that there is some subjectivity to the allocations that we get. And I'm here to sort of reiterate that that is not the case, that the formula, and I'll go over it here in several highlights, is almost exclusively mathematical. And so I want to go over, so
Amy, can I just interject one comment to that as well? I completely agree with you. It is absolutely objective, but it is determined by the legislature.
It is determined by the legislature, correct?
And this is true actually in part because of the kind of format of government of Rhode Island, where the legislature really has preeminence over the governor more than the other way around. You know, we do not have a strong executive.
Correct.
The legislature that determines this formula, they are the ones who have the ability to change it if that is their desire, or if their constituents make it known that it is their desire.
Correct. And that was the case in 2016. They made a change to it. I did not research the details of that change, but any effects of that change have been included from school, from fiscal 2018 forward. So there hasn't been any change to this formula in the last several years in terms of how it's calculated, or the factors that go into it.
So from 2018 forward, it's all just the math.
It's all just the math, correct? Yep.
Well, just the math.
Just the math. Math is good.
I'll make one more editorial comment because I can't resist. Providence wags the dog. So
correct.
Almost you could, it's, if there's an analogy to be made, it's sort of like the Defense Department's budget compared to welfare. It's, orders of magnitude greater. So you can cut you can cut millions in dollars of social programming. It doesn't even come anything close to what the Department of Defense has. That's sort of like Tiverton versus Providence, or really essentially the rest of Rhode Island. You can include Warwick, Central Falls, and Pawtucket there too. So those communities not only dominate the legislature, they dominate this process, and they essentially get most of the state aid.
Excuse me for 1 second. I'm just going to close my door. My dog has decided to make herself known.
Well, yeah, my dog, and I'm sure he would oblige everyone by barking back at her dog.
I was going to say, I can get mine in here. They can talk.
She's a hound dog, so she's loud. Okay. So I apologize for that.
My dog isn't loud at all.
So now I'm going to get into the math and how the math, I guess, depending on your perspective, did not work in our favor for 2022. So the funding that that Tiverton gets is based on the assessed values from the town as a percentage, effectively as a percentage of the assessed values for the entire state as a total. However, they then weight adjust those for factors related to median income percentages. The valuations are provided by the Division of Municipal Finance of the Department of Revenue. It's subjective. There is nothing that anyone has any say over that other than what has been submitted to that department. The median income percentages are provided by the U.S. Census Bureau. there isn't anything subjective in terms of that information. What I do want to share with you is just, I did not want to get into, there's an underlying calculation to the, if you look here under 2021, this 2,041,000,000, that is a calculation based on those assessed values in the median income. I did not want to get into the details of all of that because we would just be getting lost in numbers, and I wanted to make the point more than the actual numbers. So the calculation factors, just so you know, so for FY22, which is the year that we're speaking of, we are dealing with assessed values as of December 31st, 2019. So they take the third preceding December as the base for the assessed values. And the same is true for the years prior. So it's 3 years prior. It's not the current valuation that occurred that will end up affecting us in a couple of years. And so that is, so they deal with, you know, as I mentioned, the assessed value and market value of Tiverton as a proportion of the assessed or full market value of the entire state of Rhode Island. They use that and they then come up with what they call, I'm pronouncing it E-wave, which is the equalized weighted assessed value. And then they multiply that times a median income adjustment factor to get to what they call an adjusted E-wave as to be used for computational purposes, and both for the town of Tiverton and the state of Rhode Island. And I have provided sort of how all of those are calculated, what the sources are. So as I mentioned, what I'll call the raw E-wave is this number here, which is just a percentage, a pro rata percentage, Tiverton's pro rata percentage of the state total. Then we multiply it by the median family income and we get the adjusted E-wave. And then they do the same for all the other communities. They add it up and then they use that as a weighted average to come up with the adjusted E-wave, which is this number for Tiverton, this number as a whole. So my point into sort of going over that, all that laborious information is that every number here is, as Dr. Larkin said, completely objective. I guess there was some misunderstanding that there was some judgment that was allowed by the legislature or others to come up with these numbers, and that is not the case. In terms of why the percentage went down, I'm sorry, the state percentage went down, thus the amount that the town is required to pay went up. Number one, if you can see here, in the last 5 years, we were at roughly the same level. The valuations went down, but here it jumped up significantly. So that is an indicator of, and I'm using this term loosely, wealth of the community. In addition, the median income factors have also increased in the last 5 years. If, as a general indicator of that, without actually going into every percentage, this number here up in the yellow, that's the number of free and reduced lunches that we had 5 years ago. And that's what we have now, 407. So it's going down. And again, that's all based on the lunch applications that we get. And that is then factored in to the formula. So those are, as I call, wealth indicators, and not that the town of Tiverton is wealthy per se. However, those two factors in particular, as you can see, have affected this ratio here. It went down 6% from the year prior. And thus, again, that's based on the increased valuation and the increased median income value, income adjustment factor. And again, without going through all the machinations of how we get to this, the state share ratio last year was 37.3. It is now 33.2. So with that, as the town's valuation increases, as wages and so forth, as reported to the Census Bureau, increase, the state is then responsible for a smaller percentage of the total education cost for the town of Tiverton, and then the town is conversely responsible for a larger percentage of that. And if I may, I'd like to just quickly, without boring you with the details, read the definition of, or sort of the summary in the funding formula reference guide. It said, in addition to state aid, municipalities contribute varying amounts to their local school departments. Which we know that's fairly easy. And it says, so the E-wave that we talked about on this page here, the equalized weighted assessed value, as we talked about how it was calculated, the E-wave calculation takes into account both the property values and the income of its residents and attempts to address pockets of greatest need. So that's where the free and reduced lunch and so forth come into play, in that if there were two communities that had the exact same equalized weighted assessed value, one may receive more state aid than another if that first community had a higher pocket or a higher percentage of those who meet the poverty criteria. So it's basically a mathematical way to allocate funds to where it is, I'll say, theoretically needed most, at least mathematically needed most. And now that I have probably bored you all to sleep, I'm happy to take any questions, or if there's anything else you'd like me to go over in more detail. This could, every number is a calculation of a bunch of different numbers. And, we could spend hours talking about this, which is, I'm sure you don't want to do at this point.
Okay, thank you very much, Amy. We'll just open it up the floor briefly to questions from the committee. Diane?
Amy, one thing that comes to mind is free and reduced lunch. Obviously, over the past year plus, is it not true that lunch has been essentially free for all?
That is
courtesy of
true.
The federal government.
That is true.
So I'm going to assume that this state will have to somehow make a change in the funding formula sooner rather than later to account for that.
Actually, what they did is they held us harmless in terms of that as well. They used the same number for this coming year, 22, as they used in the calculation for 21. They made no changes since applications weren't submitted because everyone was receiving a free lunch. So I don't expect the formula to change. I think it's a question of how many years they carry over that number.
Okay. And I am not going to try to put you on the spot. This is for Dr. Sanquioni, I think. What kind of outreach does Tiverton generally do with regard to free and reduced lunch? Is it just, the applications on the website, go for it if you want it, or is there any kind of efforts to make sure that all the families that would be eligible at least understand that they could be?
we use full communication on that. So Julie gets involved. It gets out on all our social media. Our principals make an effort to reach out to families who we feel might be deserving of this. So yeah, it certainly helps the district to make sure that we capture everyone beyond the fact that financially it helps the district. You know, we want to help families. I mean, we want to help our students and make sure that everyone has a meal or 2 meals every day. So we take every effort to communicate it.
Okay, thank you.
Ms. Palish?
Thank you, Amy. That was great. I think to sort of high level bring it back to the budget discussion and why that impacts us as taxpayers, because 6, 7 of the past years, our sole increase in school committee funding has been from state aid. Next year, our state aid is decreasing 600,000. That's why when you hear that, oh, you know, we have 2 pieces. We have a municipal piece and we have a state aid piece. And when you hear, oh, we gave you 4% of the municipal piece. Yeah, but the state aid piece went $600,000 down. That's why our net increase was only 300,000 and is only 1% because of this, because there are 2 pieces and this piece is going down, and it's not because they're punishing Tiverton, it's because in their view, based on the data they get, the wealth of Tiverton is increasing, and consequently they believe the local piece needs to be more than $1, which it has been 6 of the last 7 years. So to bring it kind of back to the budget discussion,
Correct.
now that the state aid's going down, locals got to go up, or, you know, we find ourselves where we are this year.
Thank you. Mr. Dakotas?
No, I just wanted to thank Amy for doing this. It's helpful to see with your eyes, and you know, even surprising just the school lunch alone to see how far down the last 4 or 5 years the applications have gotten. So I don't know if it's Tiverton's getting wealthier or not, but I guess that does make a big dent in the factor into this whole thing. But thank you for breaking it down.
You're welcome. And if there's anyone who, you know, wants further detail under some of these numbers, I'm happy to discuss with them, you know, offline. It could just take more time than is available.
And Mrs. Pavo?
Amy, thank you very much. I have no questions.
Thank you.
Okay. Any questions from the public, Mrs. Delpart?
Not at this time, Dr. Larkin.
Or from our administrators? Okay, thank you again, Amy. That was really helpful. And again, I think it's very important that we continue to try and educate our citizens and fellow taxpayers. So I am going to go to, sorry. So before we go into executive session, just a few quick announcements about meetings. We are scheduled to meet on the 22nd. If anyone would like to put things on that, please let Diane or myself know. I think we should keep that meeting unless there's some objections. And then the financial town hearing is July 1st. Our meeting in July is July 13th, and the financial town referendum is July 17th. All right, I am going to ask for a motion to move into executive session under Rhode Island General Law 4246 5A1, job performance, character, physical or mental health administration, and Rhode Island General Law 4246 5A1, legal advice, budget, litigation, PRA requests, and field lights by Mr. Sower and Mr. Scungio. Can I have that motion?
So moved.
Second.
Roll call vote. Mr. Dakotas?
Yes.
Mrs. Pavo?
Yes.
Mrs. Palish?
Yes.
Ms. Farnworth?
Yes.
And I vote yes. So we are into executive session.